is new. Somewhat. We are embarking on a different journey in the podcasting world. It's actually a journey that I am continuing, and Garret is now joining me in this journey because I've already recorded, I don't know, a handful of Detroit City Sportscast episodes. And it's just been myself, and they've been at most like maybe 10 minutes tops. I've never gone, it's never been like a full on podcast episode. It's just been like me throwing out some thoughts, and that was it. Now I have Garret joining me as
Surprise!
a co-host here. Garret, welcome to the Detroit City Sportscast.
Thanks for having me, Adam. I think when we were having discussions, for some of us that may have been seeing this, you guys have been together before, in the Detroit City Lansing's, with Channel 451 and content we've been doing lately. It only seemed fitting that all of our calls and our talks about the things are rapid, long ass talks about things ranging from our takes on professional wrestling to all of our teams in Detroit one way or another. It's like, well, we already do this for fun. Why don't we just do this for this?
Why don't we just record the call and put it out there as a podcast?
And ladies and gentlemen, this is how the magic gets done.
Because that's essentially what we're doing right now. We're just recording one of our phone calls, and as we're repurposing it as content. So, but what this show is, and like Garret already said, if you're listening to this show, you've probably also heard us on Channel 451 with Tunnel Talk and all the, just the ridiculous shenanigans that happens over there.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying there's not going to be shenanigans on this show. What's going to differentiate this show from that show is we're going to be talking about all things with Detroit sports, not just Detroit City FC.
Right.
We're gonna have some Detroit City FC aspects in here as well. But if you want a full-on episode, if you're seeing a show hosted by Garret and myself, and you're automatically assuming that, oh, it's probably going to be Detroit FC bullshit, I'm going to tune in. Well, you don't want to necessarily tune into this show if that's all you want is Detroit City FC stuff.
Strap in, motherfuckers.
Yeah, you're going to want to, if you want just Detroit City FC stuff, catch us over on Tunnel Talk, Channel 451, 451.themajorsports.com or themajors.net/Channel 451.
Right.
If you want to hear more, if you want to hear Lions, Tigers, Pistons, Red Wings, Detroit City FC, a bunch of other shit that has to do with, sports in our fair city, then you want to be right here on the Detroit City Sportscast with Garret and myself. So yeah, that's long and short of it. Garret, did you want to add anything else?
So for those that are wondering what to other than this stuff, what else to expect? I mean, if you've checked out our stuff, this is not something that we're going to put any advisory stuff. We're going to talk to how we feel. And, knowing me, every 6th to 8th word, and sometimes less than that, is going to be swear words for great reasons and the opposites of that. Think of it as joining in reminders of celebrations that we're taking in as Detroit sports fans, or fucking therapy sessions like what I had for Molding over Hockeytown Tuesday night when McDavid dropped 6 assists on us. It's
Which was great because you tweeted out earlier that night. It was like a before and after type of tweet. You were like, "Oh, this game is great. The Red Wings are playing good. They're creating lots of space. Blah 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 blah." And then the third period rolled around, and how many
fucking
goals did Edmund?
yikes.
Yeah, what did Edmund score? Like 5 goals in that
Yeah,
third period.
yeah.
So yeah, it was.
Shout out to our friend Niffy for immediately and Glenn for immediately liking and realizing that bullshit. I was like, yeah, it was bad. Also, shout out to
Hashtag
Newbie
blame
for,
Garrett.
yeah, Newbie. What was McDavid? Chris Letang? I mean, that's a fucking reference right there. But look, this shit like what we're just doing right now. Expect this type of things in there, and just imagine. Also, just like if you want to know what do you guys like during Lions season? Oh boy. It's been a wild year. In Detroit Lions land, and I feel like that has provided a spark with me that I hadn't had with a lot of the Detroit sports teams other than Detroit City, which the last couple of years I've gone full dive into to the point where we're fucking making content regularly. But now I'm getting a revisiting of the reasons why I love the other teams as a child in my teenage years and my college years and everything like that. And now we get to talk about it for the purpose of making content. So I mean, I don't know. What else do we need to say for a mission statement? If you're unsure what to expect, or unsure either, join us for the ride.
Do you want to get into a couple of topics?
Yeah, why not? I mean, we have we're sitting here right now. For context, for those when you're wondering it's Friday night, February the 16th, a little after 9 Eastern. It is NBA All-Star Game weekend, which means that we are spared from watching the Detroit Pistons for I don't know how many days. Isaiah Stewart can not get into any fights to the point where where to be arrested. The legend of Beef Stew continues. We are 8-9 days away from the start of spring training games in Lakeland for the Tigers.
Pitchers and catchers have already reported across Major League Baseball, which is it's the off season just flew by. Like it feels. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that's a good thing. So I'm excited. I can't wait. If you're a Tigers fan, I mean, this year especially should be one that you are particularly excited about, considering this is a year where the Tigers should be gunning for that first place spot in the AL Central.
And I think I have not been this excited for a Tiger season in a long, long time. And again, I think part of it has to do with the Lions. We're seeing this is a beginning of a new era in LA. If you've been in the last not just decade, but the 10, 15 years in a way. Miguel Cabrera, now officially retired and working as an advisor to Scott Harris. AJ Hinch now in his 4th season managing the Tigers. You're seeing, Casey Mize club sort out arbitration back from Tommy John. What's he going to be like this year? And a growing crop of arms and schoolboy and all that. What's going to be the next levels of Spencer Torkelson, Colt Keith now getting that 6-year deal. There are a lot of questions, and this is a division that when you look at the fact that for as inconsistent as we were last year, we won 78 games and we're only less than 10 games out from the Twins winning it, and maybe have been the team to make the most moves or most impact stuff, not just on the field, but also off the field. Jason Benetti, play-by-play guy now. Dan Dickerson also announced his second. Yeah. Adam, just to provide context, just how big is that move of getting Jason Benetti?
Jason Benetti?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Jason Benetti is one of the best announcers, not just in baseball, but all of sports, really. The guy can do it all. And that's something that was really missing with the Tigers and their broadcast.
Right.
It's one thing to have to watch a bad team. It's another thing to have to watch a bad team and a bad broadcast.
Yep.
And Shep wasn't good. Kirk Gibson, God bless him for all the shit, the health shit that he's dealing with.
Right.
Wasn't good. And he wasn't good because of, Jesus Christ, the having Parkinson's. He just wasn't good because I don't think his personality fit in the booth.
It just
And
didn't
then you
seem to
had
match. I feel like they were trying to come up with something for Mario and Rod, and how Mario and
no,
Rod ended.
and yeah, and the thing with Kirk Gibson too is he's very mild mannered.
Mhm.
It doesn't seem like he has a lot of personality. Uh, Great baseball player, legend in Detroit. It's just he's not a baseball announcer. Jack Morris is a piece of shit. He's I don't think that I don't know. I never liked Jack Morris.
How do you feel about Carlos Pena getting some stuff in this year?
I mean, I'm interested in hearing Carlos Pena. I thought that was an interesting pick. I think Craig Monroe is going to work out really, really well, though.
Right.
Alongside Benetti, just because Craig Monroe's been he's been in that spot. He's been in that broadcast spot for a while now, and I think he's pretty good. I mean, do I think Craig Monroe could be doing play by play? No. Do I
But
think
Craig
he's going
Monroe
to
is somebody
be
that's got enough character to
sure? Yeah.
be the color to your guy doing the play. Andy Dirks is doing some radio stuff with Dickinson, right?
Is he doing some radio stuff this year? Which
I saw something with that. Didn't confirm
there's
here.
another couple good ones too. Did Cameron Maben fill in for a little bit too
Yeah, and I think Maven's part of
last
the
year?
team. I think Maven's part of that crew this year that's assisting in.
Yeah,
Uh,
I thought I know last year Austin Jackson filled in for a little bit too. I don't think he's on the crew this year. I thought he did really well. Somebody who I wish they did get though, who is amazing on broadcast is Curtis Granderson.
yeah.
If you had Dickerson and Curtis and Granderson, together on a broadcast, I think that would have been really, really good. But yeah, that's something that all Tigers fans should be looking forward to. I know, it sounds weird saying that people should be looking forward to a broadcast, but given what we've been, subject to, the past few years,
Right.
ever since Rod Mario left, it's going to be a welcome change. And we're used to something like that. We're used to good broadcasts here in Detroit, especially with the Tigers. Dan Dickerson. Dan Dickerson's one of the best in the business. Dan
Yeah.
Dickerson may be the best radio play-by-play baseball guy in the entire country.
And
And
now
then
you
obviously,
get to see him do some TV games when Jason Benetti gets called into national duty.
yeah, exactly. And then and we've seen good broadcasts too with the Red Wings. Ken Daniels and Mickey Redmond are I think they've gotten, national recognition as being one of the best broadcast in the National Hockey League. So
They're
that's
always on.
something
They're
to
always on.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So that's something to be excited about. Definitely.
March 28th is when it opens up the regular season. 3-game stint in the south side of Chicago against the White Sox, who, the White Sox had a 100 loss season. Are they going to be in that same vibe again, or are they going to be making strides? It may not be there for us to tell that weekend or maybe even the first couple months, but you want to start off hot, as hot as you
Yeah.
possibly can. You got the White Sox away. You got for the series. You got a series with the Mets away, and then you got the A's for the home opener series, the Friday through Sunday. A couple games in Pittsburgh, and then you're off and rolling.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
I suppose we'll keep it within the Illich family now. Talk about the wins. So do you feel concerned after this first couple games in the Western Canada road trip, or do you feel like that this is just two of the most informed teams right now, and we'll know more tomorrow?
I mean, you run up against two good teams right now. I mean, I don't think you can be too disappointed in them.
Right.
Aside from last night,
I think they had good
against
looks.
Edmonton. We'll start with Edmonton. Edmonton, shit like that happens against really good teams.
Yep.
You run into a buzzsaw that third period. They put up 5 goals on you. That sucks, obviously. But you kind of look at it the same way that you did a couple weeks ago when you tied them. Or not that you tied them, but you took them to overtime. You got the point, and they won in overtime. A game that you shouldn't have won.
That game badly.
Yes. So I mean, yes, you want to get I think that the game against Edmonton was definitely, I think, a scheduled loss. It's
especially
okay.
when Husso got hurt.
Exactly. The game against Vancouver, that's a little bit more disappointing considering that you had 5 power play opportunities and you went 0 for on all of them.
Yeah.
Couldn't generate any offense.
Good shots, good looks. Just
it's just nothing was going in the net. You've got to capitalize on those power play chances too.
Right.
Especially against good teams like that. When you have an advantage like that against a good team, you have to capitalize on it. And the Red Wings didn't. So I mean, I don't think it's necessarily anything to get too overly worried about. You went up against 2 good teams. It's a tough road trip.
Calgary tomorrow afternoon.
You just gotta bounce back against Calgary. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, Calgary's going to be a team by the looks of their standings. I mean, they're not. To give you some context in the games, Calgary has played 54 games compared to our 53. We have scored 185 goals. Calgary has scored 166, similar to goals being allowed. It was 6-3 to the Wings earlier this year at LCA on the Sunday afternoon. So, I mean, you got Seattle, and then you're away, and then you're done in the far west. This is a good bounce back opportunities on there because Edmonton had that run. I mean, they're still 7-3 in their last 10, even when they won 16 in a row. I mean, if anything I noticed with Edmonton this year is how much they're skating. Don't give you any space. The fact that we got as many chances that we did and we were able to come back from 2 goals down to make it 3-3 was impressive. Yeah, the third period fucking sucked. But that's going to happen. Vancouver, I think some of the goals we let in caught me off guard. And good looks. Another day they might go in. So take that moment. Turn that into something tomorrow afternoon against Calgary, Monday afternoon against Seattle. That's going to be fucking weird because I got to work.
Yeah.
And it's President's Day, so it's an off day for many people. It's a game in Seattle, and it's on ESPN. It's 3:30 Eastern on Monday. Yeah, dude. I don't fucking care about it.
3:30 Eastern on a Monday, which is Jesus Christ. How many hours behind are they? Is that like
that's a 12:30
1:30?
That's 12:30
start. Yeah. So
you're having a half day. You're gonna go to whatever coffee shop you like in Seattle. If you're going away to that, maybe stop at the fish market in the morning, and then go watch the Wings hopefully avenge the Kraken loss from earlier in the year.
I sound like Dennis confusing time zones. So
our gentleman who our buddy in Channel 451 from Ireland originally went here, moved to Chicago a few months back. Well, fuck, not even a few months back. He's going on a year now. That's how fast time's flown. Yeah, so that's the fun thing. He's gonna listen to this and be like, guys, what the fuck? So Also, I will say this though. Last note on the Wings, because it just shows you how good that Atlantic Division is. We hold the last wild card spot. We're 2 points ahead of the Devils, and then they're a point ahead of the Islanders, who are then 2 points ahead of the Penguins, and then the Caps. The Atlantic, Florida, and Boston are now tied. The Bruins have lost 3 in a row. The Panthers have won 4 in a row. And then you got the Lightning at 65 and the Leafs at 64. If that ain't considered the best division in hockey, I don't know what is. Maybe the Pacific right now, when you got Canucks, Golden Knights, Oilers, Kings. It's not going to be difficult. I'm growing a playoff beard right now because this regular season is like going to be like a playoff game. Every game is going to be like a playoff game, and then we'll decide whether we become movers at the deadline, or if we add a piece in, or what our outlook is like. But I don't want to have it to be fucking like against Ottawa like it was last year, because they are so bad to play against right now. I do not like playing them.
No, they
got a number.
Which they have a number right now, but when we play them again, is it going to come after the trade deadline?
Let me look here while I'm on here in the standings. Because the deadline for NHL March 1. Is that what it is? The NBA just had their deadline last week. So let me look here. As I'm looking at there's only one game in the NHL today, and that's the Carolina and Arizona. So let me see here with the Wings. When do we have to send again? Because I think we got to go to Ottawa, right? Or are we done playing them? Is it 4 times, or do we have to play them 6 times?
Are we done playing Ottawa this year? I was going to say, just because Ottawa's about ready to get gutted. You've got Kubalik and you've got Tarasenko are probably going to both get dealt at the deadline.
Yeah, we're done playing them this year.
Okay, so it doesn't matter, but yeah, Ottawa's going to get gutted. And if we were playing them, then, who knows?
We still, anything there, we still got to play Washington 3 times.
Washington's probably going to get gutted too.
We're still going to play we got to play the Islanders. Looks like 2 times. We still got to play the Rangers. We still got to play the Lightning a handful of times. I don't think we've been away in Tampa this year. I don't think we've played away in Tampa. Looking at all the schedule and just early on and all that stuff here. Yeah, so we're gonna have a little bit of a rougher end of the season schedule by the looks of it, but that's the joy of it all. We still play Pittsburgh twice. It's we still got to play Carolina. I do not like playing Carolina either, but
no.
We end with a home and home against Montreal.
Yep.
So that'll be middle of April. So if I look like a caveman come middle of April, just know it's worth it. And then if we're in the playoffs, then it continues. I hope Ville Husso has a quick recovery. It pains me that was literally injured himself the same way that he did against the Ducks 2 months ago. Same extension, reaching out. But I don't know. Maybe if I hope Lyon's not going to get worn out by all the amount of games he's getting in. But we shall see here. How are you? Well, I bring it up to the Pistons schedule because I'll just see who they have when the All-Star break ends. How are you feeling right now? Any Lions news? What was it? The CFL Defensive Player of the Year for the BC Lions?
It's one of those out-of-box type of signings, which is fine. God, what's his name? I know he didn't even go to. I think he went to college in Montreal.
Did he go to McGill?
I don't know.
That's it.
Was it really signing?
Looking it up.
Uh,
Matthew Betts.
Matthew
Mateo.
Betts. Is there like a French pronunciation of it? Because it
Matthew.
looks is that
Matthew.
is it
Maybe Matthew.
Mateo?
Maybe Matthew. Yeah.
Mateo? I don't know. we're just
Uh,
we're just throwing this all together now.
he's
So
from Montreal, so um,
okay, so it's probably some French pronunciation. Um,
Matthew.
I mean,
Matthew.
whatever. I think the guy is he's gonna get some looks. I mean, I don't know if he's gonna end up making the team next year, but I think
It's a
he's gonna have
yeah.
a chance.
It's a reserves
I
future
think he's gonna
deal.
have a chance. So yeah.
If anything, we've shown that if anything that we're willing to bring in people that are hungry for an opportunity and to make something out of it. I think some of the people that we've really been seeing lately. I mean, you can start naming the names if you want, Adam, of people that have jumped in and taken advantage of an opportunity given this past year. What Kirby Joseph? Like I'm thinking just defensively. I'm thinking Kirby Joseph. I'm thinking Iffy. I'm thinking, um, you know, Rodriguez. Just a handful of those guys here. These are just obviously the guys that may not get the constant attention that like a Branch or a or an Aiden Hutchinson would get, but guys nonetheless that made their mark. And I think if if it's gonna make something out of that reserves future deal is getting, we will see. And it's if anything, it just shows that whenever I think the Lions are making moves now, and this is credit to Brad Holmes, that whenever they're making moves now, people are not like, oh, they scoff and wonder. They're like, okay, something's up behind this move. There's a reason for this. What is it?
There's definitely there's definitely certain types of guys that Holmes and Campbell like to target.
Yeah.
They're the culture guys that are going to that they're you know that they're going to want to fit into this organization like you would fit a puzzle piece into a puzzle. Um, and I'm looking at this article from Pride of Detroit. Report CFL star Matthew Betts turned down other NFL offers to join the Detroit Lions. CFL star Edge wanted to be a Detroit Lion above all other NFL options. Basically saying that this is going to be he thinks that this is going to be um, the best team for him to succeed on. Which is great. And I know that this is, you're looking at a CFL guy as opposed to an NFL guy, which I get. I get the juxtaposition there. But I think that this is somewhat of a sign of things to come, something that Lions fans aren't used to, Garrett, and
Yeah.
that is players wanting to come to play for Dan Campbell in the Detroit Lions.
Yep.
You're not going to have to overpay for these guys. You're not going to have to do this extra convincing. It's not going to be like a Golden Tate situation where he's had a success, now he wants to make his money type of deal. This is they built a situation for themselves where it is going to be somewhat of a destination for players.
Yeah.
Players who want to come in, be part of a new culture, a winning culture, where they're going to be given a chance to succeed. And again, even thinking of that, realizing that is just it's just still so foreign to a
Yeah.
lot of Lions fans out there because they've never known anything like that, and it's going to be weird. It's going to be different. It's going to be weird, but weird in a good way. Because all that success that we've seen over the course of the past, season and a half, it's going to continue this offseason. And, the draft coming up in April in Detroit is going to be popping off. And then, once training camp rolls around and free agency and everything like that, it's going to be an incredibly exciting time for Lions fans everywhere in this team. And it's going to be great.
And I think too, when you're already seeing about people wanting to come here, I think we started to see that a little bit this past season. David Montgomery coming here.
Yep.
DJ
Massive
DJ.
signing.
I think you're seeing these guys that are wanting to get an opportunity on there. And I think the skin, Adam, I know if we've talked about this before, I think we were just with as great of a run duo as David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs were this past season. I think we were only teasing. We didn't even utilize their full potential yet.
No, and Garrett, one quick thing is how big are Brad Holmes's balls to go and totally reconfigure a running back room from last season with DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, which is really good.
Yeah,
that was a good running back room. Totally reconfigure it, do a 180 on it, and have it get better.
yeah.
That was incredible.
And
That
then
was an incredible move by Holmes.
And that includes like and then we're not even mentioning fucking Craig Reynolds.
Yeah.
Getting opportunities in there, and then our end rounds. And JMO when they're running. It's a fun thing. Like I love power football. When I was a kid, and the things in the late '90s and that was blessed with the amount of quality running backs this league had. Not obviously we had one of the 2 or 3 of all greatest of all time in Barry Sanders, and I'll throw Walter Payton, Jim Brown, probably Emmett around though as maybe the others in my immediate like top 4 of all time running backs. But then also when Terrell Davis was healthy, Priest Holmes was healthy, Curtis Martin, fucking Tiki Barber, trying to think. There's just Corey Dillon.
Tomlinson.
Yeah. Oh God, LT. Yeah. Jesus. That's. LT was sick. I'm trying to think. A Train from Michigan had a year or two good for the Bears, and then unfortunately he faded off. Edgar and James. Like we had great running backs in this league, and I love power, and I feel like we didn't like. Part of the reason why I feel like we lost in Chicago in December is because we didn't start the second half running the football when we were up. And I bitched about that to everybody. Adam knows about it. But no, it's one of those things where it's like to be able to have 2 runners that almost rushed for 1,000 yards, would have rushed for 1,000 yards if they did a little bit more running. And then a stud tight end in Laporta. Which I just hope we can keep him healthy because he's going to have a target on his back in year 2. But this is. I'm fortunate in that my what pays my bill, puts food on my table for my day job is involved in the event industry in the city of Detroit and surrounding areas, and a lot of that has to do when the Lions are doing really, really good, business is booming. Because if y'all for lighting downtown at Michigan Central Station and all these things in there is people want to do shit. People want to do things when there's a team when the Lions are doing good, and we just cracked the surface.
What's funny too, Garrett, is after everything that happened with the Lions this season. I was talking to our friend Puck.
Yeah.
Who's a Bears fan, which I don't understand.
He does it to antagonize us. You know that. Does it to antagonize.
Is it? And I was talking to him, and this was I think the day before, or no, the day of the NFC Championship game.
Okay.
And we were at the clothing donation at Cass, and he was like, I legitimately hope the Lions win. I'm like, thank you, Puck. That's thoughtful of you. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, yeah, it's just everybody in the city is so much happier.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it is. Everybody in the city is, yeah, you're absolutely right. Everybody in the city is happier. And it was amazing. It was amazing how happy everybody was when the Lions are doing well. And yeah, you hope for more of that. And but you think, just kind of piggybacking off of what you were just mentioning, Garrett, about your own business and how that stepped up a little bit, and everything that's going on with that. So whenever the Lions are doing well, everybody's doing well in the city of Detroit. It seems like. So yeah, hopefully we get more of that this year.
The draft is going to be wild in a couple of months. April 25th or 27th, I think. So it's it's a lot going to be going on. So just get ready. And I remember being sarcastic, and this is going to be a sort of transition to Le Rouge talk, but I remember in April when y'all were just jokingly talking about the draft, and then you put the 451 logo and Detroit Lions colors, and I was like, what the fuck? And then you were shocked at me when I said we're leading off with Lions draft talk. Like, you weren't joking? I'm like, no, I wasn't. But
you just wanted to talk Lions draft shit. So
I mean, I'll give credit to Sean, my HR at work, young guy, who helped spur it to me, when he's like, yeah, Lions, you picked to win NFC North, and help the spark. He'll get that spark. So now we're just looking at sicko stuff and talking about just random funny football things and everything. And but I'll tell you what, another thing too about the Lions is that at the end I feel like this. I've told you this. I'm going to go maybe on record and say I feel like the NFC North may be one of the top 1, 2, or 3 toughest divisions in the NFL this coming season. When you look at where the Green Bay Packers were at last year, they beat Dallas, which was one of my funniest things. I didn't laugh so fucking hard in the playoffs because fuck you.
It was such a karma moment.
Yeah.
It was such a karma.
They a year or two down the line, they maybe beat the Niners. But that's a young team. And then the Bears, who could have won 10 or 11 games, as wild as they were last year because of how many games that they've blown, if they draft the right way and anything, they're going to be steps in the right direction. So, we found it funny that normally we bitch about Packers and Bears fans in the city, but yet the Vikings seem to take the cake for being the saltiest. Maybe that's what happens.
God, they're so bad. So fucking bad.
Maybe when you go ice white at home on Christmas Eve, when you try to bring that fire, you end up tasting your own smoke with us winning the division on your field for the first time in 30 years.
Yeah. No, the division was very underrated. I mean, when you look at it too, you had Detroit and Green Bay both on the doorstep of the NFC Championship game. You could have had an all NFC North NFC Championship game, which was really unthinkable at the beginning of the season. If anything, maybe, yeah, okay, Detroit could potentially, they should make it to the playoffs, and who knows, maybe they go on a run and make it to the NFC Championship game. I don't think anybody had Green Bay on that bingo card of theirs to make it to that position.
6 or wherever they were at.
Yeah, they look dead in the water. All the credit in the world to Jordan Love, though. Jordan Love is definitely emerging as one of the the best young quarterbacks in the league, which is incredibly hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find a franchise QB, and it looks like Green Bay may have done it again.
Which pisses me off because they've done that's like their third in 30 years.
Oh, I know. And you know what? The jury is still out on Jordan Love. He's still going to be under a microscope next year. He's still an incredibly young quarterback. So and I'm talking incredibly young in terms of experience. Um, so yeah, I think the jury is still out on him. Do I think he's going to end up being successful? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
As far as some of these other teams go, yes, Chicago's in a good spot with their draft with their draft capital that they have. Obviously, us being Detroit Lions fans know that you have to convert on those draft picks.
Yep.
Just because you have them doesn't mean they're going to be successful.
Yep.
And I think Chicago already made a huge mistake this year by retaining Eberflus as their head coach, given some of the names that have been out there for this offseason.
They fired Lovie Smith
Like,
years ago when they won 10 games and didn't make the
I don't
playoffs.
get it. I don't get it. Even with Vrabel out there, fuck, I would have fired Eberflus in a second and given Vrabel a look.
Yep.
So I don't get what that move is all about. And then when you look at the Vikings, I think they're in cap hell right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do next season. Obviously, they have the best wide receiver arguably in the game right now.
Ridiculous how good he is.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson, but they put a lot of stock. A lot of Vikings fans put a lot of stock into Kirk Cousins, and to the point where they're saying, "Oh, if Kirk Cousins was still around, we'd be winning this division." It's like, fucker, Kirk Cousins was what, 4-4 when he got hurt. Don't be throwing around that shit on there. Yeah, don't be throwing around that shit. It's, I don't think. Do I think things would have been a little bit different if Kirk Cousins was in there instead of Joshua Dobbs and whoever else they were throwing out there? Yeah, maybe they would have been a game better. Maybe it would have been went a little bit more down to the wire with the Lions there at the end of the season, but I think the Lions still definitely win the division, even with Kirk Cousins as their quarterback. And Minnesota probably is still ultimately out of the playoffs when it's all said and done. So,
yeah.
But yeah, going into next season though, NFC North probably going to be one of the I don't know.
Although the North and the West,
three best divisions.
Yeah, the North and the West are going to be the toughest for me in the NFC. Because when you look at not only how the Rams basically wound up getting into the playoffs in it, like they were dead, like Green Bay, especially after losing to Green Bay, they were dead in the fucking water.
Absolutely, yeah, good call.
And then he went 7-1 the end of the year, and then pushed us to our very limits at Ford Field in January.
Yep.
And Puka Nacua, Jesus Christ, that dude's
gonna be. Yeah, dude's already a star. That guy's going to be fucking dangerous as hell, as he continues to, grow and mature into an experienced NFL wide receiver. So, It's going to be one thing though with them is obviously you've got to get the right quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they're lucky enough to, be getting the tail end of Matthew Stafford's career. I don't know how long Matthew Stafford's going to be hanging around.
Dude continues to take a beating.
Yeah, so got to see what happens with them once they, get another quarterback in there. But yeah, Puka Nacua has been incredible so far in his young career.
Yeah, I think the West, and because it'll be interesting how Seattle updates now that they're going in out of the Pete Carroll era. I mean, San Francisco. I whatever day in the calendar is that we go back to Santa Clara. I'm waiting for that match with bated breath because we got to go back to Dallas in 24. We got to go back to San Francisco in 24, and the little inside reference to Channel 451. It's a bloodbath. It's a blood battle now, especially with our dear friend Mr. Rod Green. rooting for the Lions and then showing up in the last tunnel talking isn't because to be fair, Rod did grow up in the Bay Area, but still, I considered it an act of betrayal.
But still,
it was an act of betrayal.
There posted an article on the majors.net or the majorsports.com a couple days ago in the aftermath of San Francisco's loss. I think San Francisco did be good next year, but I don't think anything's guaranteed for them. They do have some issues going into this offseason, namely around their cap situation too. So keep an eye on San Francisco this offseason and going into next year. I don't think it's not going to get easier for them next year, and I think that's just a situation you got to keep an eye on with them because I don't think that it's going to be. I don't think we're going to see an as dominant San Francisco team as we've seen this year. So
they got a couple of years left, a little bit, especially because when they've made some moves, they don't have as many draft picks. I think with draft picks down the line, and talk about cap space, other teams are going to catch up. I think that'll be. They know that. I think they're going to really. I think they had this game. They had the Super Bowl on Sunday where they wanted to. They just didn't finish the job, and it's a reminder of how we felt a few weeks back. My little thing on Detroit Pistons talk is they're 8-46 right now. They finished 17-65 last year. Granted, they've the last 3-4 weeks they've looked as good as they ever have all year, and they made some good. They made some good moves at the trade deadline, getting a little bit deeper, having Fournier, Fontecchio. I think, if anything, I'm excited for if you can keep Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Jalen Duren in the same place and all of them healthy. I think there is something that could, especially Jalen Duren, this year. But yeah, so two questions. Do they match their win-loss total at come season's end of 17-65 this year? If yes or no, and whatever the answer is, what do you think that total is?
What do they have to match?
They're 8-46 right now. There's 28 games left to play. They got to win 9 more games to match their total.
They don't do it.
How many do you
I don't think they do it?
How many think they went out on 28?
I want to say they have 5 more wins left in them.
So, I mean, if that's the case, they finished 13-69. At least one part of their record is nice. But, yeah, I mean...
I don't know. I know we had this discussion the other day, too. I don't know if they had a great... they definitely didn't have a great deadline. Was it a serviceable deadline? Maybe. I think it was serviceable in the sense that nothing big was done. They didn't make any massive trade,
right.
Which I think is a good thing, considering I don't think you want Troy Weaver making any massive trades. When he could definitely be a guy who is on his way out. Yeah. And when we were having this discussion the other day too, Garrett, I told you that I don't think Troy Weaver should be given the opportunity to play around with all this money that they're going to have this coming off season.
Yeah.
So
it is, the wild thing is we are only one game behind the Washington Wizards, who have all of a sudden gone 2-8 in their last 10. So there's this very possible chance we may not be the worst team in the NBA this season, which is a fucking wild thing to say. considering some of the hell and the fact that, and I know Yowdy's little brother is going to be pissed at me for saying this, a quarter of the Detroit Pistons wins this season have been at inopportune times, because those are days that the Lions had massive road games in Dallas and in San Francisco. Dallas, I blame the Pistons. San Francisco, as soon as the combination of drop balls and the ball bouncing off Vildor's head, that was just the sign that fate was not going to be in our way. That's how I kind of feel about that.
NBA's is down bad this year, though. You've got a ton of bad teams in the East. You got bad teams in the West. Hasn't been a good year for the NBA.
Boston's 43-12. The Cavs are 36-17. The Bucks are 3-7 since they hired Doc Rivers. Well, that was the last 10. I think they were 30-13 when they hired Doc. If anything, the West looks pretty good. I mean, the T-Wolves are shocking at 39-16. Then you got the 37-17 Thunder, who lost by fucking 16 or so to the Pistons a few weeks back. The Clips are 36-17. The defending champion Nuggets. Shout out to Sean Kelly. I know that was one of his favorite moments in a lifetime lately, when the Nuggets beat the Heat in June to win the title. The Suns at 33-22. The Pelicans at 33-22. Then the Mavs, who Luka's playing out of his mind right now with some of that, the way he's playing. And the Kings at 31-23, the Lakers at 30-26. What LeBron's doing still wild. That guy's defying time with what he's doing. And then the Warriors 27-26. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of like, I agree with you. It's not a wholly fun NBA. Maybe it has to do with our team being so bad that it just takes away the interest from me wanting to watch everything in general. Whereas the Wings are doing well. The Lions are doing well. I'm eyeballing a lot more stuff.
Well, like what you just said a minute ago, Garrett. Pistons are having a historically bad season.
Yep.
Historically bad season. Yet they very well could finish out the year as not the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
Which is that's amazing. A couple months ago, they set the record for consecutive losses in a season. And we're at the point right now where, like you mentioned, it's still up in the air whether or not they're going to be the worst team in the league. Which is just it's so crazy to think about. Just so crazy to think about. So yeah.
Well, briefly now, our little Le Rouge session. The men got done with the Desert Showcase. They had 3 friendlies in Arizona. Basically, Danny Dico testing shapes out for his to see what lineups he liked. 2-0 win against Grand Canyon U. A 1-0 loss, trying a 4-3-3. What looks like, I don't know if they changed shapes in the second half. Looked like a 3-5-2 against New Mexico. That was a 1-0 loss. And either maybe I've seen 4-2-3-1, maybe a 4-2-4, 4-2-2-2 type thing, beating El Paso in the last friendly. I'm not sure. I think we'll see if all the guys are back for the women's match in attendance for the women's match tomorrow at the Field House. But it's we're 3 weeks, which is wild also too at time. We're 3 weeks away from the start of the USL Championship season. March 16th, 8 p.m. Eastern against Colorado Springs. How do you think you're feeling at this point now? One, compared to going into last year's season, and 2, how we ended last season.
Obviously, as far as how we ended last season, that dud that we had against Louisville after that amazing win against Pittsburgh was it was disappointing, but I think it was somewhat expected to, given how the season went altogether.
Yeah.
So it's whatever. I think in some way everybody was kind of ready for that season to come to an end.
Yeah.
It was a bad year. It was a frustrating year. in some ways an up and down year. And
Pushed us to our breaking points at different times of the year.
Yeah, it was such an exhausting season. I swear to God, it felt like you had 3 seasons wrapped into one last year with the men. Yeah, it was a welcomed end in some sense. As far as how I feel coming out of, going into this one after everything that we've seen so far, I mean, I think it's encouraging. I think that we have, it's funny, as I said this last year too.
Yeah.
Oh, we had a better team than what we did the year before. I don't think we don't have the glaring holes this year, I don't think, that we had last year.
Right.
And namely with Grass Boy Declan Wynn leaving, that massive hole that we had on the left side. I don't think that is as prevalent this year.
Right. Creators,
we
explorers, yeah.
Exactly. Now there are some questions about where the fuck Levi's is. And
Sounds
maybe
like
we can get
injured.
some. Yeah, it sounds like he's injured. Maybe, I don't know. Garrett, you and I are going to be at the PSL match tomorrow. Maybe we can get an answer from somebody tomorrow night and exactly where Brett Levi's is. But we don't have that glaring hole. Ben Morris has an entire USL championship season under his belt, and you hope that he's going to be put in a better position this year. And you've got a legitimate, experienced USL striker in Elvis Amo on the squad now. And then you've got a pretty skilled international in Ali Coot coming over, who I think could do some big things. I know Dennis with Channel 51 is really excited about him just because he comes from Bohemian, and I get it. But I'm excited for it too. Yeah, very talented player. And obviously there's some other pieces in there as well, whether it's Alex Villanueva, Matt Sheldon,
James Murphy.
So,
James Murphy and Villanueva are
Murphy.
my two that I'm really looking forward to. Just because with James Murphy, you can play him as either in soccer terms, the number 6 is the midfielder that sits back further and is the link between defense and creating attack. Or you can put him as a number 8, which is your traditional central midfielder that runs box to box and creates. Alex Villanueva is somebody with experience, but he's still so young. I think he's 21 now, going
very, very young.
But there's
and it just fell out of favor with a very, very good Orange County team last year
that made a managerial change and got hot.
Made a managerial change, yep. And he's one of those guys that you'd like to see given that new opportunity, and what he's able to do with that new opportunity. So it's going to be exciting to see him. I think that there's these pieces that we have coming in this season, I do think are more skillful. I think there's more upside to them. We got rid of some malcontents in Skaggy, Simonson, and I think we did get some upgrades over a guy like Dickie Balls, Richard Ballard, who I liked.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the guys coming in for him, like an Ali Coot, is better suited for this team. I think Ali Coot is going to be a more skilled guy, obviously, than Richard Ballard was.
Yeah. We took risk last year with people that were injured before: Ben Morris, Richard Ballard, Adrian Billhart. Skaggy Simon. I'm looking at the players that we brought on in the offseason last year. Skaggy Simonson, Jalen Robinson, who didn't have as much opportunities to defense. He was an experienced defender, a cool dude. And then we brought on Tommy McCabe just before the start of the season. And his performances as a workman midfielder was enough that Tulsa wanted to, and also Tulsa needing to clear space, that got us Dario Suarez and Brent Levi's. Dario is now out of contract, and I think it hasn't signed with anyone yet in the offseason. But with Brent Levi's is when he's healthy. And the problem was when Tulsa played Detroit City last May, he got hurt in that game. And I think he came to a slight injury, and I think he's not gotten consistently on that. We'll find out exactly what the sitch is on there, because Levi's was not on any of the 3 team rosters in the desert, though we, saw him a couple weeks ago and everything there. So we're under the suspicion, as well as our internal people that are in the know, that he's injured. Which is a shame. But if anything, that gives more of an opportunity to Alex Villanueva to stake his claim on that side, or even. Yeah, because we have options this year. That's the thing. We were talking about how deep we seem to be this year compared to last year.
Much deeper team, and even and that's still another crazy aspect too. In this, given the situation that City is in right now, because you even look at the depth that we had 2 years ago, which was non-existent. We played Pato into the ground.
Yep.
And yeah, I just and there's still some more spots that need to be filled. We were talking last night, Garrett, about Dario Suarez and the fact that this team could still use a guy like Dario Suarez, and I don't think it's going to happen. I wish it did, but yeah, there's definitely some other spots that need to be filled with this team, and even the guys that they have returning as well, too, are guys that can continue to make an impact. Obviously the Maxi Rodriguez is, that entire back line with Devin Amumensa, Steven, Matt Lewis, Michael Bryant, all impact guys, all guys who have made an impact on this team since they've gotten here. Obviously, some of those guys have been here longer than others, but since making the jump to USL Championship, all of those guys have had a huge impact on this team. And
Dominic growing as this team is growing too.
Absolutely.
Obviously we're wondering too, like with Connor Rutz, Connor Rutz, if you listen to 451, he's our one that we applaud the energy, but we question why sometimes he's in where he's in, just because the dude's such an engine. But it's the technical that we need in that. So what's his place going to be in this team this year?
And that's the thing, Garrett, is he hasn't been starting.
Right.
And that's been something that's, and that's probably something that we should probably go and look at too. We should probably go and look at, if we can, was Connor starting last year?
I know he was
in the preseason matches.
He was dealing with an injury going during the preseason, for at least the last part of the preseason.
Yep.
Is that the case this year? I don't know. There are also 3 trialists that I'm laying eyes on that have been becoming more and more consistent. Danny Espelata, Jan Tuwe, Zeko Lewis. Jan Tuwe, I believe, has had some experience multiple times around that. Zeko Lewis is a USL Championship veteran guy, somebody Danny Dicchio would have seen the last couple of years playing in as an attacking mid role at Sacramento Republic. It was actually kind of fucking hilarious when Zeko and Sacramento parted ways. The USL Championship website did a thing, because Zeko played a lot in the Eastern Conference before going to Sacramento. He was with Charleston a lot, and maybe some other teams. And Detroit City was one of the 4 potential listed locations. And I think that was it at when? I don't think they even put Danny in the article about that. I think that was. Yeah. So the fact that we're hanging out during the weekend waiting to shoot the shit before the women play a PSL, and we're seeing the first men's sighting in the desert, and I see that name as Trials, it's like, all right, let's go, because I was kind of manifesting it. How do you spell Jan's last name in the training? Just because I'm trying to see if I can find some article stuff on. Oh, here we go. Jan Tuale.
I was trying to spell it the other day, and I kept on spelling it wrong when I was trying to bring up information on him. So
yeah,
I probably was the wrong.
Looks so basically, but someone who's already bagged a goal in training, in the preseason, somebody who's been playing, someone that's already seeming to be selected a lot in these team sheets for in there. Maybe it's just because it's preseason and it's wanting to see. It's like, all right, is this going to be somebody that is going to make this team inside? But from what we're seeing, I think there's hope. But last year we were excited going into the season. There were a lot of our people that we know that went super hard in defending anything that any negative critic reviews, off-season grades, anything like that, to the point where we've seen some stuff where in our supporter stuff and that gets created that we joke about to this day, but then we wound up eating shit for defending that much based off how, let's be honest, I'll fucking admit it. But I'm trepidatious in a way. The right things are being said. The right things are being talked about. The right things are being seen in preseason. But it's not going to really matter until we get into the games that matter. And March 16th, that starts. So I would think we'll also start to see who Detroit City gets drawn in their second round of U.S. Open Cup. Now that the league that Detroit City used to be in finally announced its format and its teams this year, we'll see what that is. We have ideas potentially on what that could be, but nothing's formalized yet. A commiserations to a Metro Detroit NISA team that's just only in this current form only survived 1 year in Gold Star Detroit.
Do we gotta cross ourselves?
It's the season of Lenten, so it's the season of Lent. It's the season for penance and repenting. Unfortunately, maybe Gold Star didn't do enough of that, because you could say, have they been?
No, Gary. No, Gold Star gave up playing professional soccer for Lent this year.
Yeah, been excommunicated from the Vatican, or the union between Gold Star and the Vatican has been annulled. As this is as a sort of like Catholic, as an Episcopalian, if I'm off in any of those terms with any of the diehard Catholic listeners, feel free to shoot us a message on that. All of this is a good jest, except we should have lost that game to Gold Star at Open Cup. Let's call
yes.
it. Was it one of our favorite games to watch? Yes, but still.
I'm so glad we obviously I'm glad we didn't lose, but if God fucking having to deal with Rod if we did end up losing that game on 451.
Oh God.
God, thank God Josh Gad is fucking dog shit though. So
suckbird kid.
It was an eventful night to say the least. It was a fun night though.
Open Cup games for those that take a night off from weekday Detroit City matches when the Open Cup comes out. Seriously, you need to go to these, because we're kind of sarcastic assholes when they say there's the magic about the cup, but there really is a magic about the cup.
Absolutely.
And you know what I'm pissed off at? That we don't get another chance to avenge our loss to Rio Grande Valley Toros.
Hey, my gente will always live in our hearts.
Shout out to Lindsay back in West when they listen to this. That's all I'm going to say about that. Worst April Fool's Day ever was that game.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Adam was pissed off. To give people context, we were supposed to have a 4:00 game that day, but it fucking rained, and it rained so hard over the course of a 20 consistently that the Keyworth pitch had to be drained and backed up. So the kickoff was delayed from 4:00 to 7:30. It was cold. Yeah. Shout out to Dion and Jackie for having the hand warmers. Adam was incredibly fucking pissed because he was missing night 1 of WrestleMania.
That's right.
John Vahoski's match day streak ended because he decided to go to his friend's concert instead of the game, which was the smartest move he could have made because that match sucked. And yeah, so, but guess what? That was last year. Now this is this year. We'll see if we wind up saying something different in a few weeks' time.
Garret, we are 1 hour and 10 minutes into this episode, and I didn't think it was going to go this long.
It's fun.
It is fun. I don't know if we should bring up this topic or not, just to kind of close things out, just because it might be a little long-winded.
Right.
And it's probably something that we're going to have to touch on later on.
Yeah.
But the majors did run that article, though, which I wrote it, on Josh Shriver.
Yeah.
And obviously more stuff is coming out, has come out regarding Josh Shriver. And obviously, if you haven't read the article or anything like that, or no, but that Josh Shriver, rep from the state of Michigan, has been, posting some pretty racially charged, inflammatory stuff on social media. And he is the husband of Detroit City goalkeeper on the women's side, Gabby Shriver.
Right.
And there's been a whole bunch of backlash, obviously, and rightfully so, on Josh Shriver. But there's also been a lot of backlash on the club and Gabby as well. Obviously, it's a tough situation for the club, and I have to imagine it's a tough situation for Gabby, in the sense that Gabby hasn't said anything publicly about it.
Right.
And for I don't want to necessarily say for good reason, but you get the silence in some sense why this is happening. Because I don't think anything good necessarily is going to come out of things for Gabby if she was to speak out on this.
Right.
Yes, we, in all circumstances, you wish that, she comes out and says, she disavows what her husband has said, and you move on from there. But I think when you think of these situations and everything, that people have to deal with, something like that may not come as easy to everybody.
Right.
And I think right now with the club, I kind of think that they are taking, it's not the perfect approach,
right,
in my opinion, but it's an approach that I think is understandable.
I think it's
given the situation that they are in.
I think when you consider it's a delicate situation.
Incredibly delicate situation.
And I can understand people's frustrations, especially for those that understand, like the Detroit City community and the supporter community. It's a very inclusive environment, environment that is preaching tolerance, openness, inclusion, all of these things, and regardless of orientation, race, gender. And this is obviously the situation with State Rep Josh Shriver. The things they're saying goes against every fiber of the things that not only just the supporters but the club has preached, and it's a tough situation. However, like you've mentioned, the person that is employed at the club, as playing at the club, has not been the one to say any of these things in public.
Mm-hmm.
And until that happens, that's if there's something that's said, then yeah, that opens the door. And I get people's frustrations and I get people's concern. But sometimes tough things tough, unfortunate things in here. And the situation is this. Until the situation changes where there is, say, if Gabby sides with in favor of public saying with Josh, can't be anything that's really done with that. And I think the club is doing as best of a thing that they can right now with the situation. It's fucking tough. I get if people don't want to come to matches because they feel like this is, I don't want to say betrayal, but you know what I'm trying to get at. The sense of going against the things of something that they thought that they shared a common ground with. But it's a delicate situation, and the club's looking into it from multiple angles as well. And if anything, I was going to say also too, if you look at how the women's team have been playing with all this too, there doesn't seem to be the issue like of this, in certain situations it can be a cloud hanging over a team. It's not looking like that. It's looking like they're
absolutely
playing like a unified squad.
Absolutely. I think, and that's a very, very good point. Obviously, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, Garrett.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on in the locker room. But one thing that we have seen is, what game did they just play after all of this happened?
Against
played a game against the Cincinnati Sirens.
One of the best teams in the PASL.
One of the best teams in the PASL, and I don't want to say they dominated them,
but they set
the tone. They were playing their game last Saturday night, and they looked extremely, extremely good in that match. Maybe their best match of the season so far.
When you look at the level of the opponent that they played, and how much they had to grind for that, it wasn't an easy game.
No, and they look like a well-oiled machine. They look like, a very cohesive unit. And coming off of everything that has happened off the field with this team, it's impressive. It's in some ways it's reassuring. And when you look at it from that standpoint, you just, obviously because there are players of color on that team. And if there were any issues, you would think that they would be coming out a little bit more.
Right.
When you saw them take, to the pitch, the indoor pitch, during these games. So it's, like you said, it's a delicate situation. It's a tough situation for everybody involved. Gabby, the rest of the squad, the front office, the staff. It's something that you wish that, nobody had to go through, but lo and behold, we're here. We're having to deal with it. And, and you mentioned it too. I don't fault anybody for not wanting to go to games, not wanting to, support this team right now, given some of the things that have happened. That's certainly their choice. That's their prerogative.
To each their own.
That's fine. Yeah, to each their own. I get it. But I also don't want people looking down on other people who decide to support this team still. I don't want those people taking anything away from the people that are still going to those games, still choosing to support. And in some sense, still, for some people, still supporting Gabby in some way, going out there and cheering for her when she makes a big save and whatnot. Because my demographic, I'm Mexican, the things that Josh Shriver has said is, I think, directed towards my people.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to look at it a different way. I'm trying to, take a step back and try to see a bigger picture for myself with
Yeah.
all of this,
And
and seeing, and try to look at some different scenarios and of what could be happening, and trying to understand it from there, instead of, instead of painting, Gabby and as some, unapologetic bigot like her husband undoubtedly is. Um, just because
I
I
feel
think it's unfair to do something like that. I think just because she hasn't said anything,
right.
she hasn't come out and said anything, and that's, go ahead, Gary. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, in my background is it too. I'm someone who is somewhat in the spectrum, someone
Mm-hmm.
who, you know, somebody who when I see the things that Josh says, I get angered because I see somebody, as someone who, and this, I'm pretty strong in my faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I see somebody using their faith to strong arm beliefs and tie in that to something, which to me goes against the very to me personally the very teachings of that. It
Absolutely.
angers the absolute shit out of me seeing that. Not being open, loving to that. That's the opposite of what those ideas that are being preached. And we are not. And the thing about it too is that we are not the only ones. When those tweets went down last week, wasn't just Detroit City people that was seeing this. Beth LeBlanc, Detroit News, the column, Governor Whitmer's pissed. Those things. This is a thing that is gone now, extended just beyond this circle, this little thing of ours.
Mm-hmm.
De La Costa Nostra, but that type of thing of soccer and stuff, of this thing. It's become a much bigger issue, and this is just part of it.
Yep. And
So, yeah.
yeah, and I know I was just gonna say that it's, yeah, I echo everything that you said, and um unfortunately it's not over. I mean, shit's going to continue to be said, and I will say this, and again, I mentioned this to you the other day. I do think the club needs to be better when it comes to addressing, um issues within, black and brown communities.
Yep.
um we are, obviously we're smack dab, the club is in the middle of an immigrant community, and obviously there's been, some, some struggles, some strifes between club and, the city of Hamtramck.
Yep.
But when you go back, you look at it, and you look at, the type of community that Hamtramck is. Hamtramck is a heavy, heavy, heavy Yemeni community, big time Yemeni community. And you look and see what's happening in Yemen right now, and all the famine that's happening there, and in some cases, the genocide that is happening there. The club has had one, I think they had one match to benefit
Humanitarian
Yemen.
summer 2021.
Yep. Yep. And why haven't we had more?
Right.
Why haven't we had, and like I said, why haven't we had more instances, more benefits for these black and brown communities, not just here in Michigan, not just here in the immediate area, but around the world.
Yep.
And I'm so glad that this club has taken the stances and that they have with the LGBTQ community, and all the great stuff that they've done with the Ruth Ellis Center during Pride Month, and with Pride Raiser and everything like that. It is so remarkable. It's such it is such a great initiative that the club has taken on.
Right.
I just wish that there were stronger initiatives taken with Global South charities, causes, so on and so forth. That I think would be it would put a better mark on the club, and it's already a club that has a very, very large white following. And when you have
not just white suburban
white suburban following, and when something like this happens, when you have the Josh Shrivers out there, in some ways trying to bogart the identity of the club, and it's not just him. There's some other people thrown in there too that have shitty views and whatnot, like a Josh Shriver. But I think when you have something like the Josh Shriver thing happen, I think if the club could have, if they would have taken some more steps in relating more to Black and brown communities, I don't think that you would have, as much of a backlash, or I don't want to say boycott, but people who
legitimately
are deciding not to support this club right now based off of everything that has happened over the past couple of weeks. I don't think that you would have as much of that. So I hope that the club is learning some lessons from this. Not to say that they are in any type of fault. I just think that this could be a great opportunity for the club to polish things up for themselves and be better moving forward when it comes to certain issues, when it comes to BIPOC individuals, Black and brown communities, Global South initiatives, shit like that. So
it's like you just hope that they continue to make the strides. I think for the situation right now, I think they're seeing what they're doing, but it's one slip up in this type of situation can really fuck things up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a fine line to walk on. Because you're right. One slip up, one wrong decision could mean everything. It could mean everything. And yeah, so it's tough. Very, very tough.
To end it on a good note with City, PASL women's indoor match, last home match of the season, is tomorrow night, to Saturday the 17th, 8 p.m. Eastern, against Waza, who rent out the Detroit City Fieldhouse space for their home matches. It's going to be probably an interesting atmosphere, to say the least. If you haven't gone to an indoor game, tickets are $5. I don't think it's sold out yet. Could be wrong.
I think it is sold out. For tomorrow night.
Well, if it is, well, shit, you all missed out. But club has the matches on their YouTube channel, Detroit City FC on YouTube. Jared Mackey, Dave DeWahey on the play-by-plays and commentary.
They do a good job too.
Yep,
they do a good job.
So it's a fun time. It's a little bit different than your typical experiences of going to Keyworth, or if anyone that went to Cass Tech in the days. But it's a fun. And if you hear a bunch of noise and people pounding on the boards, I'm sorry, not sorry for last week. I will fucking do it again tomorrow. But yeah, and we'll look for our other thing too from Mullen and Over City, and that content too that will be dropping in. If anyone's doing the crossbar challenge, just you're on notice. Don't fuck up. What do we want to end this with? Anything else?
I'll go ahead. I can go ahead and I can take us out. Just make sure that we're going to probably be recording another Tunnel Talk next week. So stay tuned for that over on channel 451. 451.themajorsports.com or themajors.net/channel 451. You can continue to, check out all the, the mulleting over cities on channel 451 as well. We have all of the other mulleting series over on Detroit.themajorsports.com, mulleting over Hockeytown, mulleting from downtown. I don't know, maybe there might be another mulleting down the field here, in the next couple of weeks. But as well as check out all of our content as well over on themajorsports.com. So that would be greatly appreciated. As far as, the next recording for this, right now, I think it's kind of we'll kind of see how things go and where things land next week. But Garret and I are going to continue to talk about formats and stuff like that for this. So make sure you stay tuned to Detroit.themajorsports.com for more info on that. So,
and if you got any questions for us, that you want to see some things within any of the Detroit sports things that you want to talk about, or just things, just drop, however the formats that we're going to be dropping this, if we're doing it on YouTube or on our websites, just drop comments into us, on the socials, and we'll take the feedback. We not say we might listen to everything, but we'll take notice of it and go from there.
Absolutely. Until next time, everybody, this is Garret. I'm Adam, and have a great weekend.
All right, motherfuckers.